we have a very special guest. I'd like to introduce Major Mandela, and the few veterans of the UNEF who survived the entire war. He has graciously agreed to share some of his experiences with us. So, Major Mandela, what was your training like?
Well, it all started with the Elite Conscription Act in 1990 when the United Nations Expeditionary Force, which was at that point giving armed guards to colonizing ships, they decided they wanted to take the best and brightest, both physically and mentally, from Earth and train them to be this elite fighting force. And eventually it went from guarding to attacking and basically becoming a full-fledged army. But our training started out on Earth very much just like Army training, a lot of physical stuff, just conditioning to follow orders. But then we progressed to the second stage of our training, which was on Charon. And for those of you who don't know, Charon is twice as far away from the sun as Pluto is. So it was I remember when we first got there, I looked up and the sun was about the brightness of a streetlight. So we got there, and Charon is very cold, so that's where we learned how to use our mech suits. But it was brutal. You either graduated training or you died there.
Wow. You were one of the first veterans to return to Earth. What was this like?
Well, by the time I had got back, I was only gone 3 years relative to me. But about 50 years had passed on Earth, and a lot of things had changed. It went from being just the start of the war to Earth's economy was very fully geared up for war. The United Nations, we were under world government now. It was all under the United Nations. And they basically, the government distributed food and jobs. So they used ration tickets, and the economic unit was the calorie. So I was pretty well off because through the Army and my back pay, I had a lot of ration tickets. But I think that was the biggest thing, is just having it be this world government, and it was so different from when I left. Like, I was a physics major before I was conscripted, and when I came back, my physics knowledge was 50 years behind recent discoveries. So it was kind of hard for me to find a job, one, because I was so well off, but two, I didn't really have any technical training.
So why did you decide to go back into the Army?
Well, Marjay and I, we just didn't really fit on Earth. We had just gotten so used to Army life, and we knew how that worked out, and it was very ordered. And I had decided to go live with Marjay, the commune that her parents worked at. And so after it got attacked by raiders, we just decided that there really wasn't anything left on Earth for us, and the Army had said that we would be assigned like a training job, we wouldn't go back out in combat.
How did you deal with the loss of your leg?
Well, it was kind of funny because we had reported to the moon to sign up to re-enlist, and so we got our orders, and we were to be on the moon and training. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, our new orders came in, and we were being deployed. So we did get our job of training, but it lasted for 5 minutes. But anyways, when we got back in, of course time passed on, and they had some new developments in the mech suits, and the whole idea was to save as much of your body as possible. So where my leg was injured, it had an iris, and it would close off and just basically sacrifice that part of my leg in order to save the rest of me. And so after the battle, my buddies collected me up and sent me to the recuperation planet, where I grew a new leg. And it's actually a very painful experience, but as you can see, I have a perfectly fine working leg now.
Great. How did you deal with the transition to homosexuality and the fact that heterosexuality was an emotional dysfunction?
Well, that was it was kind of awkward. I could see it when I first got back to Earth the first time. But as time went on, especially once I became a commander, that kind of helped a little bit because I wasn't around all the enlisted men and women. But it did get kind of lonely sometimes, because that was a big deal, big way of how we coped, was having those relationships. And to have that taken away and just there be nobody there for that, it did get kind of lonely.
After all this, what was your scariest moment?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, the first time we got into combat on ALF 7, I was pretty scared, just because it was so crazy and I had no clue what to expect. And it doesn't really get better, but you become used to just the chaos and you kind of accept the fact that, well, I might not, make it alive, or make it out of this alive. But definitely my scariest moment was when our ship was attacked by a Tauren cruiser, and some of our pressure pods had gotten blown up and damaged, and Mary J almost died after being injured in one of those attacks, and that was probably the scariest moment.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing some of these experiences with us.